So welcome everyone to the Activated Asana podcast. I am really excited to have this conversation today because I'm being joined by Dina Segal, who is one of my superstar members in the Academy. She's been with me for a few years now and has really applied the methodology of organization and activation to her teaching and the other foundational principles of activated asana. And she has seen some just really incredible results with her students. And that is the story that we're here to tell today. We have, actually one unique thing about Dina is that she's working with some people with really limiting factors, I'll just say, in their movement life and in their yoga practice. You know, some people where other yoga teachers would kind of fear to tread because they have, kind of complex issues to work through, whether that be injury or accident that they're recovering from, or even like something like peripheral neuropathy, issues where, these are complex issues. And Dina has been able to successfully support them in their practice and actually help them make progress which they didn't expect to see. So she's working with that kind of demographic, and she's working with students who are, have attained some really incredibly hard to attain postures. And I don't even mean from a flexibility point of view, but you have to have strength and mobility and really integrated body to be able to achieve some of these postures that some of her students have done. So most people would think of them as extremely advanced students. So she kind of has the full spectrum, and she's basically applying the same methodology to all of them, the same foundational principles. So that is the exciting conversation that we're going to have today. So first, I'll introduce you to Dina, and you may have heard her other podcast that she did with me. Gosh, I don't even know. Was that a year ago or getting close to it probably? And so that was a cool conversation, hearing about your own personal journey from being a gymnast to a short career as a stunt woman.
Very short.
To a gymnastics coach, to a yoga teacher. And, you have a very, if you guys haven't listened to that podcast before, you really should. It's an awesome episode. And so Dina is teaching these students in Florida. And how long have you been teaching now? Has it been like 5 or 6 years?
Yeah, I want to say almost 6 years. I think, Danielle, you came to me like a year after I started, I want to say. Mm-hmm. So probably like 6 years.
Okay, good. And, whatever parts of your story seem applicable today, we'll talk about that too. And then we have 2 of her students. So Danielle is one of her very advanced students in terms of, actually even in activated asana, the advancement, I would even say, is like, what are the changes that you've accomplished, in your practice? Because, most people are not just practicing for the sake of entertainment or just, what was the old saying that people used to say? It was something about like passing the time. People don't even use that term anymore because people seem to have no time, right? So, but people are not practicing yoga to pass the time. They're practicing to, for self-development on a, physical, mental, and emotional and spiritual level. So, progress needs to be made, so that you feel like, you're motivated to continue. So Danielle is one of Dina's students, and then Melanie is another student, and she has made progress in an entirely different way in her practice, but all like profound changes. So first, Danielle, I'll just have you just quickly introduce yourself and anything that you want to add to the conversation right now, and then we'll kind of get into some questions and stuff.
Great. Yeah, my name is Danielle. I'm 42, and I've been doing yoga probably since my late 20s, but it was really sporadic and more just yoga that was at like your local gym, if you will. And I've been with Dina about 5 years. I am married and I have 2 children.
Okay, great. And maybe just why are you practicing yoga?
Well, I've always enjoyed it. And then when I moved here, I had heard about, the amazing Dina through the neighborhood. And so I met her one night and she was very kind and said, "Oh, just come to my class tomorrow." And I was like, "Oh gosh, I'm going to go to this girl's house and I've never met and just show up." And I went and I was like pleasantly surprised. The only hot yoga I've done was a Bikram class, which I did not enjoy. So I was surprised by how amazing I felt in the heat and how like at peace I felt. I tell everybody that this is the only thing I found that my mind turns off when I do it. Because if I'm thinking of other things, I will fall out of the pose. So it's really the only thing in my life currently that I'm not thinking about anything else, and I can really carve out this time just for my. So I think that's what I really, really love about it. But also the spiritual aspect I really enjoy. Oh,
Okay. You're cutting out a little bit, but what's the spiritual aspect for you? Like how does that show up or feel or whatever?
It's more the quieting of the mind, I would say. In Shavasana, I love to, well, I try, it's hard, but to try to really not think about anything, think of like from head to toe, or I go from toes to feet, to head, like really envisioning like the blood flowing through each little portion of my body. It's a hard thing to learn, and I'm still working at it, but I find that I really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So would you say that you're feeling your body in a new way? Is that sort of what you're experiencing?
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. And for me, who I went my whole life never really being physically active until I was in my 20s. So for me, finding like something that I'm excelling at finally in life, later in life after children, feels really good to me. I love my kids, think it's so cool when I come home and show them like a new pose that I've learned. They think their mommy is strong and like they're super, impressed with that. So for me, I enjoy that. And I enjoy, trying to show them the little things that I can show them to use in their everyday life. With my daughter as a dancer, my son in soccer. So there's little things that I've been trying to show them that I've learned through Dina that's been super helpful as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. That's great. Okay, we'll circle back to you because I already have a couple questions for you. But let's hear from you, Melanie. And I really appreciate you being here because I know you're not having your best day in terms of how you're feeling today. But I know you have a really special story too. So just go ahead and introduce yourself and how did you connect with Dina?
Yes, and again, I apologize for my voice. But my name is Melanie Smith. I'm 67 years old. I did not start doing yoga until I was getting ready to retire. So it was my late 40s, early 50s. I can't remember exactly, but later on in life, I immediately fell in love with the idea of yoga. But I was a wanderer. I would go to various classes, any class, it didn't matter, carried my mat in the car. And I would, I would pick the studio for ambiance, or I would pick the music. Some instructors, you like the music better. And I loved the practice. However, in retrospect, I was going through the motions. I was doing it. Doing something's better than doing nothing. I enjoyed every minute of it, but I really probably wasn't progressing. I was just going through the motions. And suddenly Dina moved to where we live, our neighborhood. And I just happened upon her class one night. And I thought, wow, I like this. The pace was fast, but it was more physical than I was used to. I loved her flow. I love her voice. I just instantly thought, okay, I'm going to get into this. And so
How long ago was this, Melanie?
this was right when Dina came. So I'm thinking 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I was active at the time in my yoga and also doing some lightweight training. So I was in fairly good physical shape at the time that I met Dina. And so I immediately embraced her class.
Mhm.
And
I understand it's quite a challenging class.
it is very challenging. And in my little mind at the time, I thought, oh yeah, I've been doing yoga for almost 20 years now. I got this. And I would be literally so tired after class that I would just come home and lay on the couch and stare at the ceiling. So it really helped me initially build my stamina and put yourself to a level that you probably haven't been before, or you didn't even realize you were able to obtain.
Okay,
Dina,
so tell me more about that. So she was yeah, like getting you to a level that you didn't think you could attain. Like what does that mean?
well, Dina's a great motivator, number one. She's, your number one cheerleader, but Dina is not the type of instructor. It's a very personalized class. Obviously, Danielle and I are in two very different areas of our practice, but Dina can pull it all together in one class without taking attention, away from anyone or focusing too much on someone. But what Dina will not allow you to do is to just show up. It's like, okay, well, I don't really feel like going to yoga today, but I'm going to go. I'll go through the motions, yada, yada. Now, that's not going to fly with Dina. She's going to recognize that every day is different, and she's going to invite you to listen to your body and what you feel like. But she knows when you're going through the motions, and she knows when you're doing it with intention.
Mm.
And so early on in my experience with Dina, that was the number one thing, is really focusing on the flow of the class and how I'm going to get from one posture to the other with intention, and how in the world, my arms and scapula are going to help me with my balance. Dina was able to bring all that together for me. Then COVID hit. Then I was in an accident and suffered a pretty significant brain concussion. And so I had to take 2 years off. I was on a walker for 3 months. I couldn't drive for 9 months. Had double vision, lost my peripheral vision. I was a mess, a hot mess. And so could not practice for 2 years. But finally, one day I went back to Dina and I said, we got to start from the beginning. How are we going to do this? And that's been 2 years ago. And it's been remarkable.
Well, tell me where you were, like what you were able to do in the practice when you returned, and where you are now.
Well, Dina, you'll have to help me with this a little bit. But when I first went back to Dina, I couldn't stand in mountain pose without holding on to a wall or tipping over. I couldn't shut my eyes. I couldn't, half moon, totally out of the question. I couldn't bend over.
Do you mean like just standing half moon kind of thing?
Oh, no, Ardha Chandrasana.
You mean like Ardha Chandrasana? Okay.
Yeah.
Tree pose. I mean, all those things that were so natural to me up until the point I couldn't do. And one day we were in class and I was trying to do something. This is just a fun memory for me because I couldn't do it. And you try not to get frustrated, but it was very humbling. And Dina just looked at me and she said, what is stopping you from doing that pose? And I was just trying to be a little bit funny, and I went, age, but when we thought about it, it was fear. It was the fear of falling, the fear of what's going to happen if I turn my head and, and fall over again. And simple things like that. So there's so much to the story, but Dina was able, number one, to help me recognize the fear, and number two, to break things down into such a simple concept of why my arms are important for balance. I've, you know, I think I do a decent practice now. I'm never going to be the same.
Definitely, Melanie.
But I can, you know, other than I still can't do crow.
It's getting there. It's so close. It's so close.
But I've come a long way, and it's helped me tremendously, and you know, just my quality of life, not being afraid I'm going to fall at home, getting things out of the cabinet. I move with intention now, in yoga and out of yoga, and I owe that all to Dina and Danielle's patience.
But I think Denise, what you want to hear is how we did that with Melanie. And this is the same procedure I use with Danielle. And it's always organization and activation, meaning that dialing the feet out so they feel the foot to core connection, and then dialing the hands away from each other and feeling the hand to core connection, and feeling that throughout their practice. And we did break it down, like Melanie said, into this tiniest component. When she couldn't do half moon, she had her hand. Do you remember this, Melanie? She just put your hand on a block, one arm up, and your leg was straight, your foot was on the floor. And I made her push into the block and feel the entire straight leg. Just feeling it, like kind of dialing it inward and feeling the entire leg. And then pubic bone to breastbone, right? And then over time, as soon as she was stable there, we began to just starting to lift the leg, saying change nothing else about all the activations that are going on. And now let's see if we can just lift the leg. And by God, like now she has half moon is like nothing for her. Half moon is nothing.
That's incredible, from going from using a walker.
Yes.
Yeah. Because, you know, I mean, Ardha Chandrasana, like people can't walk off the street and do Ardha Chandrasana.
No, what we also did for Melanie, you probably recall doing this at some point, but we'll step up onto a block as if we're stepping up onto, I'm like, imagine you're stepping on your step stool in your kitchen and you're reaching for something. So we have a dialed out foot, stepping on the block, we're reaching for something. We have the arm lines turned on, the back leg can lift up a little bit, and Melanie got it, so stable. And I said, now when you're at home and you step on your step stool, this is the procedure. This is how you do it. This is how your body just works, no matter how you're moving. And I think that's why I've had so much success with Melanie and Danielle.
Yeah, you're really helping. Well, we'll see if Danielle had fears to overcome, but really, like, you know, this is this concept circle of safety, right?
Yes.
You know, just maintaining that and keeping the walls of your circle of safety pushed out, so you feel there's many things you feel confident doing, and you don't have fear around those movements, activities, positions. So just really, you know, making sure that that's a big healthy circle.
Yeah, and Melanie, you did say one time, I forgot your exact wording, you said that coming to my class was better than any other whatever therapist you were seeing at the time.
My rehab, yes.
Yeah.
I went through, I had to go through neuro rehab to learn to walk a straight line again. I had to go through vision rehab for my vision and peripheral vision. But no one was able, you know, when you take away your balance and you forget the ability to, it's just so natural to say, okay, lift my left leg. Well, when suddenly you lose the trigger of what muscle do I need to engage to lift that left leg, when that no longer comes naturally to you, you need someone like Dina that can identify that immediately and tell you what muscle to turn on and how you're going to get. She will always say, okay, think about how you're going to get from point A to point B. What all are we going to have to turn on and engage to do that? And they don't teach you that in the medical healthcare industry. So it was, I made more progress in the first year, the first 6 months with Dina that I was back with her than I made in the year that I was, in medical rehabs.
Mhm. And this is her not saying, okay, well, you need to activate the piriformis and the quadratus femoris and the glute max and min. And she's not telling you identifying muscles to turn on. She's more, well, you tell me what cues you're
Yes,
using, Dina.
and that's it. I mean, Dina can put it into a term that I understand.
It depends on.
Floor, lift your pelvic floor, turn your arms out, push your scapula back. I mean, she'll tell you what, not necessarily the name of the muscle, but what you're trying to tighten and to control, and not just flop from one pose to the other.
Essentially, it's organization and activation cues, Denise. So turning on fascial lines, and once you turn on the fascial line, you've turned on all the musculature up the limb, and you feel connection to the core. And once you have that, you're able to move through space in a way that's stable. And yes, for Melanie, even though things were turned on initially, stability was still, we're missing a lot of stability. So the transition might have been smaller or much more basic, but the lines are still turned on. It's all about what Melanie was saying about her circle of safety, being in this place where she feels safe to move about. And that circle kept growing and growing and growing and growing because she learned to turn her body and feel her body as she's moving through Now, because Danielle and Melanie have been with me for years, a lot of times I won't call the step-by-step baby steps for a transition to another posture because I want to see if they can figure it out. and they can. And they can. I've thrown some transitions out, just let's see what happens. And by God, they always do it. It's crazy.
Yeah, they've learned how to operate their body.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. And I'll probably come back to you, Melanie, in a bit, but Danielle, what would you say are the if Dina is getting you to transition, and she's not, telling you every bit of the minutia of what has to happen in this transition, like as somebody who's now doing some very advanced poses, like what's your internal dialogue? Like, what's the focus for you? What are you feeling for as you progress toward like some pinnacle in a posture? If that makes sense to you.
Well, I think for me, I'm really turning on every part of my body, which I think previously I wasn't doing. And honestly, when I just started with Dina too, I think at that time that was too much for me. And she probably knew that to start doing. It would have been too many things at once. But I would say like now learning all the cues that she's been learning and telling us, to turn on our arm lines and things that when I'm transitioning from different poses now, I know that I need to turn on my arm lines. I need to go from my core. I need to, feel all aspects of the body. And quite honestly, it does make the transition easier when you are actually using all of your muscle that you should be using to do it.
Mm-hmm. And would you say, like, for you as well, like Melanie learned to feel her body in a new way. Do you think you have more body awareness?
Oh, for sure. Like even right now, as I sit here, anytime I'm sitting, if I'm in my car, I notice how I'm sitting. My posture has, gotten so much better. Like I always try to sit with a straight back. I'm always correcting my husband or my kids now. Like, oh, you gotta sit up, I notice how I walk, how I empty the dishwasher. Like I'm intentionally trying to, use those different parts of my body to honestly, like now I know, like to help prevent injury, like number one. But also like it makes me stronger.
So tell me more about that. Like how, like what's the perception of feeling stronger, being stronger?
Well, I just notice it's hard to explain, but I notice something inside that I don't know if it resonates outside of me or not with others, but I feel different inside. I feel stronger, at more centered, if you will. if that makes sense. It's kind of hard to put into words.
Danielle, you need to talk about how when you first came, you literally couldn't do a chaturanga. I don't know how long that you spent on your knees, and we corrected and corrected and corrected, but it was a while. So it's not just like this feeling of strength. I mean, it's like actual real strength. Like you're really,
Okay.
and talk about like I'm a nut over chaturanga because chaturanga, the angle of the arm is perfect for arm balances. And when you nail chaturanga, I know crow is coming. And then when solid crow is there, we begin to build and play. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
But talk about how you had to have felt.
Yeah. So at
Yeah.
my classes I wasn't aware that I couldn't do chaturanga properly. Like I thought I was doing it, that's what I'd always done. And, I learned a lot, like from the beginning. I just knew in her classes, like I liked what I was seeing. I liked the things that others were doing. And I was like, oh gosh, I want to try that one day. Like I want to get there. And so, with Dina, like obviously breaking things down. She's like, okay, we're not ready for that. Go to your knees. And still it's still like difficult to chaturanga on your knees. If you're really using everything that you should be using, it's still a difficult posture in itself. So with that, I mean, gosh, it probably took, I don't even remember, over a year probably to truly get a good chaturanga. Now, I can jump back and just go straight to it. Like it's no big deal. And that is probably one of the strongest poses I feel the best doing. Like I feel solid every time I do it, and I like it. But yeah, starting from that, I mean, it made me realize that everything I was doing prior was a big waste of time. Like I don't even know what I was doing because their class is so different. I mean, we have a thing in her room that we're like, we don't come here for easy, so we want to do better and be better. And it's amazing to see like what your body can do. I mean, I know I'm a testament to that, seeing, from when I started to gosh, probably this year doing some really advanced stuff that I never thought I could do. And it's all because she believes in us. Number one, knows we can do it, knows that we can do things that in our mind we don't think we can do ourselves, but also breaks it down and puts it in a way that, what, it might take a few months, but let's get this step down first. And this step leads to the next, to the next, to the next. And you do see, like, as you, and I know Melanie can attest to this too, once you start getting certain things, the other poses will just fall in line. Once, like she said, with the chaturanga, like I'm now doing more arm balances than I've ever done because I've gotten so much stronger with my chaturangas, for sure.
Very good.
I can't help but sit here and just the way you're talking about like these, small manageable steps and, just being very intentional and aware and all of that. Like you as a mom and a wife, you've already mentioned a couple of times, like how you're like bringing out the things that you're learning in your own body from Dina, into the rest of your life. And then, like who you are as a person, like has that occurred to you?
Oh, I think, my friends have noticed like a difference in me for sure, but I just noticed like a huge, like difference, like even like with my children, like I've said, like, certain things with my son, which Dina's been helping me with too, like, with his posture. And now I'm noticing that like he stands, maybe I'm saying this wrong, Dina, but like he like tilts his like pelvis forward.
Yeah.
When you know what I mean? Like a bowl.
Yes.
Like
he's at that posterior pelvic tilt, but a huge one. So he's always like slumped over, and he's a young boy, and that's got to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's lost like mobility in like the hamstrings, and I don't want to say tight hamstrings, Denise, because
Well, it's almost more appropriate in a growing person whose bones are growing faster than their muscles and tendons, right? And they get pretty tight, like, especially during a growth spurt.
And that posterior pelvic tilt.
That's so they're like the nervous system is making them tight. Yeah.
Yeah. So I notice I'm more aware of people now, actually, when I see them, the way they're walking, the way they're sitting, their posture, things like that, I notice honestly how I live my day-to-day life and drive, go to the store, grabbing groceries from the shelves. Like I just notice a difference. in my body and in deep inside that I feel more in tune.
This is such an interesting thing. I feel like everybody has a slightly different experience with it, but when you attain a posture that is advanced and something that you didn't know you could do or didn't really maybe even aspire to, but suddenly you're able to do it, how does that make you feel like about yourself? Like what occurs to you in that moment, in that experience?
Yeah, well, for me, I, like I said, I lived my whole life not doing any activities. And so I just thought, okay, I'm just gonna do like normal little workouts as an adult, and that's all I'm gonna attain to. So for me, it's opened up a whole new world of possibility of things I can do. It's something I can achieve for myself. My family knows like that yoga is mommy's thing. My husband knows that that's like the thing that brings me the most joy in life. And it's true. It's not only do I enjoy it, but I do feel like at this point I can firmly say I'm selling at it, I feel. And I like how I've done things that I've been very fearful of. I still have some fears I'm trying to work on, but I went my whole life, like I wasn't a gymnast like Dina. I've never done a cartwheel. Like to this day at 42, I haven't done a cartwheel. I've never been inverted in any type of way. So all of those for me, aside
Danielle,
like,
we did do cartwheels one day during COVID, and I know you had nightmares about it. And yours, it was a baby cartwheel, but you did it. I just did them for fun. It was
Yes.
well,
I love it.
Learn how to fall out of things. I totally
Yes.
get the whole thing. But yeah, for me, aside from just being like, oh my gosh, that's like super cool, and it's super cool looking, like the times that we can, take photos, see our progress. It's just still, it's a little more than that, because to me, I go back to like that little girl that hasn't gotten to do anything like physical her whole life. And now I'm like, oh man, I'm kind of blown away at what your body can do at really any age. And like, even Melanie can attest to that too. And it's so great because like her successes are my successes and vice versa. Like we really cheer each other on. And when, she does great things, like we're all so happy.
Oh man, I love that. See, yeah, that kind of joy and self-realization, I think that just permeates, every relationship you have in your life and just how you move about in the world. That's just incredible. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I felt like there was definitely something to hear about that. So has that made you venture out into other activities, or for now, yoga is kind of your main like physical activity? Or has it prompted you to try pickleball, say? Apparently that's quite a phenomenon. So
It is here.
yeah.
Yes, I've tried pickleball. I'm not great, and I've learned that it hurts my low back. And my friend is a tennis player, and she's told me it's because you're like bending over every time you go to hit the ball. You got to like go straight down. She's telling me, I'm just not aware, and I can't put two and two together. But no, yoga is I say it's my jam. It's my thing I love. But I also up until recently was lifting weights a lot, because I feel like that's helping me in yoga as well. And I told Dina the other day, I'm really trying to get back at lifting weights. That's my goal, is to get like, instead of once a week, I'm going to try to do 2 or 3.
All right. So it's kind of empowering you toward like more physicality, I guess.
Yeah. Cause I definitely think it'll help too with like certain postures we're trying to do. Like, I'm a lot of strength in yoga classes, but I think, especially as we age, weights are going to be beneficial. So,
and you'll apply the same activations that Dina's been teaching you to the weights. I hope you realize that, because that will make a huge difference in your ability to make progress and, and not get injured. So, yeah.
Ooh, we have had to in the middle of class when we were learning flying pigeon, Danielle, particularly, and you noticed that she couldn't hold the leg up, and because the glutes are weak. I'm like, we're doing glute work. So we'll come out of like child's pose at the beginning of class, and the first thing we're going to do rounds of glute work, and then they feel their butts on fire. So by the time we get to, flying pigeon, you're supposed to lift your leg and hold it. That muscle is talking to them already so they can identify it. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden she's like, oh my God, I think the butt work is working.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
She's priming you. She's priming you. That's fantastic. Melanie, what's the thing that you feel most excited about in this journey to where you are right now, recovering from your injury? Like, what's the thing that's, because you must have had that experience over and over again, reclaiming abilities that you had to struggle to regain. And, what are you most excited about now?
Well, for me, just the sense of accomplishment of not giving up and accepting, you know what, this is where I am now in my life. Those days are gone. I'm just going to take whatever I can get and have to learn to be happy with that. I've learned that's not my personality. I don't give up. And
I think Dina attracts those people.
I think so.
She doesn't allow us to, number
Right.
one. But no, the motivation and for me, just the camaraderie, the positive energy. It's basically now Dina, Danielle, myself, and one or two other girls that are all much younger than me and at different places. But when we're in that yoga studio, we support each other and we're each other's cheerleader. And no matter how bad or tired or frustrated I am going into class, I always feel better about myself and about life in general walking out of that class. I may be exhausted, but I feel better about it. And I have a definite sense of accomplishment and continue the drive for, I still want to do more. I'm probably close to where I was before my injury, not absolutely there, but probably close, but that's not good enough anymore. I want to do more. I want to keep pushing myself and challenging myself. And I miss it. It's such a part of my routine that, whether it's COVID or, whatever's going on and you can't go to class, there's almost.
Oh, just losing your audio there.
Oh, sorry.
That's better.
No,
Is it better?
Melanie, talk about how Melanie's actually at the point where she, despite the brain injury, is able to think about all the things that are turned on in her body in various postures and close your eyes, which you've done.
Yes.
And which in all honesty blew me away because she's closing her eyes. I believe the last time you did that wasn't a standing, but I think it was in tree. It was a single leg balance, and that's tough. And she did it.
We actually did. I closed my eyes during tree and then went through a chaturanga with my eyes.
Oh, that's right. I have them do a vinyasa in tree. It's a beautiful transition, really. And she did it. Incredible.
But yes. So again, I would never try that on my own. I would be terrified to do that on my own. I wouldn't have thought it was possible, but you have the confidence. I guess I trust her. I trust Dina's guidance. And I know that if I listen to her and I systematically engage and turn on what she's telling me, if I trust the process without trying to force it, that I might not be successful today, but I'm going to see progress. And that has, I'm turning my head now. I'm turning my eyes now. I'm doing things that I really was terrified to do and would have been okay maybe not doing them. But now I want to do more. Now, I'm just like, okay, let's keep this going.
I think
I
that was
love
so
this.
well said.
Yes.
It was so well said.
I wanted to just have you comment, Dina, on why you have this level of confidence, because they're both talking about how much you believe in them and that they trust your guidance. Like, how What's giving you that level of confidence?
I think
And you seem sure that you know how to get them to where they need to go.
yes, I think I was always a good teacher, and I had my training in gymnastics and coaching. I know how to break skills down like nobody's business. So I can teach anyone from the ground up. But when I found organization and activation, I found activated asana. I remember going through when it was just the online course without any interaction. I remember going through those lessons and doing the experiential exercises and feeling what was going on in my body. And because of my background, I just knew like this was the missing piece. Nobody taught me this in yoga. No one taught it in gymnastic training. I mean, yes, was I turning on my fascial lines? Yes, but we wouldn't talk about it like that. But it's the same kind of thing. But now I have this language and a map. It's really a map of how to teach anybody. And honestly, the starting with stability first has changed everything. So I just assess a student, or we're going to work on stability, and I just watch and see what happens with strength wise, how they hold their body. Do they understand the cues? I'm constantly asking, do you feel this part of your body? If you don't feel your lats, I'm calling it now side body because I'm not sure if it's serratus anterior or lats or whatever. I'm like, so it's both.
It's all of that. Yep.
It's both. Well, I'm like, when you're standing up, like Danielle, when you were doing a flow the other day and you were kind of wobbly at the top, her base was strong. I'm like, there's nothing going on with your upper body. You've got to feel, there's got to be hand to core, foot to core, and everything. So not so solid that you're like a rock, but you've got to feel it. But I think that organization and activation and stability, strength, mobility is it's the way to teach. And my students I don't know if they would have been as successful have I not found you, to be quite honest with you, because you help me break things down and understand the body in a way that I didn't fully understand before. And now I'm completely confident. And what comes out of my mouth, I know is accurate. And I think
you're getting the evidence of it.
I see the results. I mean, the results are real.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
And that leads me to ask Danielle and Melanie, like, how important is having like some kind of result to you? Like, what does that mean to you?
Mel, you good if I?
Yeah, go ahead, Danielle.
Okay. I mean, for me, I mean, that's always something that's great, when you've achieved something at the end. But for me, it's more the process that, oh, hold on. Am I good still there? My phone's about to die now. I have to get my charger. For me, it's more about now, like the awareness of my body and the fact that I can break things down and use it in other aspects of life is more beneficial for me, I will say.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would call that a result.
Yeah.
Because it's something you learned, right? From this process. Yeah. That you can take out. Yeah. So having that sort of thing, having, better body awareness and feeling stronger in who you are and all of those things, like that is an outcome of the way you've been practicing with Dina.
Oh, for sure. It's a testament to, her and the class that she's doing with you. I mean, she talks so highly about you in class, and she refers to you and things that she's learning all the time. So, I mean, that's just a testament to her. And like Melanie said, our trust in Dina, that we know we're in good hands. She's not going to do anything that's going to, hurt us in any way. And she does this because she knows that we can do it. And if we can't, we're going to break it down and start from the ground up.
Right. Oh, yeah. I love that. Yeah, that's perfect. And how about you, Melanie? Like, you probably came back to Dina after your accident, knowing that you'd be on a journey toward getting a particular outcome, right? To improving, what you're able to do and restoring some of your capacities.
I did. I went, I was very nervous because I didn't, my expectations were very low at that time. I mean, you can't help but get a little bit down. You kind of get smacked around with life. And I wasn't ready for what happened to me. No one is. And it's, you know, fear of the unknown. I didn't know what I would be able to get back out of it, but I knew I missed it. And
Mhm.
I knew that I trusted Dina. And so were there days that I thought, you know what, I'm holding the class back. It's not fair. You know, you think of excuses, right? I don't want to hold the other people back. You know, maybe I won't go. But I couldn't not go because I loved it so much. And it has been transformative, I guess, for me as far as being able to accept what's thrown at me and knowing that if you really apply yourself and you're willing to listen, you can really accomplish amazing things. And so I guess I'm proud of myself. The bottom line.
Good.
I'm proud that I stuck with it, and I love Dina for not allowing me to give up.
Wow. Thank you so much, you guys. These are just amazing stories. Do you have anything you want to say, Dina? Like,
No, I mean, I feel like I want to cry. I feel like
yeah.
I love my students. I always call them my yoga babies because
Yeah.
I raised them in their yoga journey, and I see on a daily basis the progress, and it makes my heart just swell, to be quite honest with you. And it's true, I don't let people give up. And I've had some students come in and they don't like that approach and they're not going to come back. But then this isn't the class for them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I'm going to teach it the same no matter what, and the right students will come.
Yeah. And that is those will always be the best people to work with, you know, because you guys have resonance. But just amazing. I mean, thank you so much, you guys. I can't tell you how much I appreciate hearing so many details. And it is quite moving to hear, you know, this, you know, the effect of working with Dina and what it's doing to you and in your lives and in your practice. It's just incredible. So yeah, I guess we'll wrap up. And you guys, I'm very, very grateful.
Thank you, Melanie and Danielle, so much. And Melanie, feel better. I can't believe you made it.
Yeah, and you were really expressing yourself. I'm impressed.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you guys so
Bye.
much.
Okay.
Bye,
Thank you so
Denise. I'll
much, you
see you at
guys.
2.
All right, you bet. All right.
Bye.
So appreciate
Bye.
you.